Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the show. Listen, really, thank you for coming to my show and listening to my show tonight. I'm going to tell you guys, honestly, blockchain technology is absolutely revolutionary. I'll tell you, when I first heard about Bitcoin years ago, I think it was about 2013. Actually, I think it was about 2011. I was driving with my mother in the car, and she was sitting next to me, and she said, "Do you know about these new things called Bitcoins?" I was like, "What's that?" So she tried to tell me what it was. And I said to her, "Oh, that's a Ponzi scheme, some sort of internet Ponzi scheme, They were only like $1 a piece or something right then. Honest to gosh, And I didn't look into it till like a couple years later. I started to get interested in it, I think it was around 2013. And so I started to do a little bit of research into it. I heard about it the second time. The second time I heard about it, I said, gee, this must be a little bit bigger than I thought it was. I just thought it was some sort of internet scam when she first told me about it. So then I started to do a little bit of research into it. And I researched what it was. And all of a sudden, a giant light bulb went off above my head. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is not a Ponzi scheme. They've finally solved the problem of third-party transactions. I couldn't believe it. I realized what it was at that moment. And so I went and I tried to get an account on Mt. Gox. I wasn't successful. Thank goodness. We all know what happened to Mt. Gox. Anyway, the long and short of the story is I started to try to mine them. And I was using a video graphics card from my computer. And it was only a small video graphics card. And I tried to mine them. And I went online and I found that there was this company out there selling miners that were so much faster. So I put myself on the order list to get one of these faster mining machines. They were a little black box. And they were like $500. Put myself on the order list, and I waited, and that mining machine wouldn't come. Well, I found out later that they were using the mining machines themselves to mine the people they had on the waiting list, and then they were giving them the mining machines only after the difficulty got to a point where I think they call it ROI, the amount of return that you get, would only equal the price of the mining machine. Then they'd send you the mining machine. They were scamming, Anyway, I got my mining machine in the end, and I hooked it up, and I didn't get much. I got like half the price of the mining machine, So I had a little bit of Bitcoin that I got from mining. It wasn't very much. I got in late. That's the reason why. If I could have got in a little bit earlier, I might have did something, But I had a couple Bitcoins, and so I went along that way, and we had this big price decline. It went all the way up to $1,150. I was all happy. I had a couple Bitcoins, and then we saw the price just fall off a cliff. I mean, it fell off a cliff. And when it got down to about $140, and I read all these articles on the internet that says Bitcoin's gonna die, Bitcoin will never be any more, and it was dropping, the price was dropping lower and lower. I said, gee, I said to myself, oh my gosh, I said, a couple $100 is better than nothing. So I traded for silver. Biggest mistake I ever made, because that was when it did the ride all the way up to $20,000 a piece. And I've been trying to get back in, but I haven't been able to get, it's hard, it's difficult. Even now at the price, at 80, was it 8,500 or whatever, or 8,000. Anyway, but I'm not out of the game, and this is the same with all you guys. You guys are not out of the game, because this game is going to continue to keep going. This is the most progressive technology the world's ever seen, and this game's going to keep going until, in the end, there's only going to be two things left in the world of value. This is the most disruptive technology that's ever been invented ever since the scene of the world. And so let's start the charts right here, and let's take a look at what's going on. He says in this article, he says, Bitcoin, the greatest gift to mankind, says former Google Africa CEO. You know what? He's got this 180 degrees in the wrong direction. Bitcoin is the destroyer of worlds. Bitcoin is more powerful than the old movie War of the Worlds. Do you remember when the things come down from space and they landed on the ground, you know? And they were like meteorites, and then what they didn't know is inside these meteorites was Martians. And the Martians, they come out of these egg-like devices that they had buried in the ground, you know, and they started to wreak havoc on mankind. The Martians. Bitcoin's just as bad as that. It's a Trojan horse. I'm telling you guys, it's unstoppable, though. So, I mean, it's like this. You know, when you're at the ocean, you know, and there's things called a riptide. And, you know, if you're a swimmer, if you're a strong swimmer, the riptide can grab you. And it can suck you out to the ocean and drown you. And, you know, if you get caught in a riptide. Now, real experienced swimmers know that you don't try to fight and swim against the riptide because it's just too strong. And that's the way with Bitcoin. Nobody can stop it at this point. The horse is out of the barn. This thing is loose. And this thing is a destroyer. It's going to destroy the world's financial system, and it's going to create a new financial system in the image of this coin. Quite seriously. And so this is not a great gift, because when you take all of this wealth and you transfer it, suddenly you create disruption. The world is just keeping its head above this disruption right now. Besides a disruptive technology like this. Honest to gosh, guys. He says, Stanford Maisie, general manager of WeWork South Africa, and former chief of Google Africa, believes Bitcoin, more than any other technology, has the ability to permanently change the world for the good. I'm going to turn that right around. I'm going to say permanently change the world for the bad. Because what it's going to do is it's going to create a society of haves and have-nots. Very similar to the type of society we had when there was only gold as the precious metal in the earth. Well, this is very similar. Except this is electronic gold. And so in that kind of feudalistic type society, you had the haves. Those were the people who had a little bag of gold. And you had the have-nots, who were called the serfs and waifs. You know? And beggars. You know? And that's the kind of world we're going to head into with this Bitcoin. This Bitcoin is going to create the haves and the have-nots. The haves are the people that are going to have a little bit of Bitcoin, and the have-nots are the people that aren't going to have any Bitcoin. And so, I don't see that as being such a good thing, but it's just like the riptide, you know? You can't swim out of that riptide. An experienced swimmer knows the only way to survive is to flow with the riptide, conserve your energy, and then when you get further out into the ocean, then you try to swim out of it, sideways to it, okay? And it's the same way with this. You can't fight against this. This is so big that it's going to take over. So let's move on. Let's take a look at Bitcoin tonight and see what it's doing. 216.9 billion. I'm going to tell you guys, this is just in its infancy. This is just beginning. 216 billion total market cap for this whole exchange of coins. It's just beginning. That's still very tiny in the world's financial system. Almost minuscule, almost microscopic. This is going to grow, though, until it overwhelms everything. There's no stopping it now, guys. It's the horse is out of the barn. Look at what's happening in the world right now. China reports its lowest quarterly growth in 26 years. The fiat monetary system is collapsing as we speak. The Federal Reserve is in panic mode. They're flooding money into the repo market to try to stave off something huge that's coming. China reports its lowest quarterly growth in 26 years. The Chinese economy, they inflate their numbers, and they're showing 6%. It's probably more like 2% or less, and slumping fast. China's economic growth decelerated to a 26-year low in the latest quarter, amid tariff war with Washington, adding to a deepening slump that is weighing on global growth. China's the second biggest economy on earth, and when they start to slow down and go down and sink, they're going to carry the rest of the world down with them. Why Bitcoin bears might be in for a big surprise. And yeah, I think they're going to be. I think Bitcoin's going to race up. It says Bitcoin is very close to a major breakout. The 4-hour charts for Bitcoin US dollars shows that we will have the next big move in less than 4 days. This is a big development to follow for a lot of traders because the bears are expecting the price to decline to $5,500 or $6,000 from current levels, whereas the bulls are expecting the smaller descending triangle to be invalidated and for the price to shoot out of the larger falling wedge instead. In my opinion, the larger falling wedge has a much higher probability of playing out. Even if both scenarios were to play out, we might see an initial decline below the descending triangle to the bottom of the falling wedge, and then a strong move to the upside from there. And, you know, I don't doubt it. I think the bull market started, I think it ended, the bear ended when we hit $3,500. I think we've been in the bull market. It raced up too high, too fast to 13,800. Now we've had a correction. The correction has nearly played itself out, and I think we're getting ready for a move to the upside. That's my opinion, and my opinion only. So, a lot of stuff for you guys to think about tonight. Blockchain technology is taking over the world. Blockchain is being seen everywhere now. It's becoming incredibly popular, and more people are turning to using blockchain technology for just about anything. It has really reached crazy heights, which in turn has led to some very interesting use cases indeed. It's not just blockchain enthusiasts who have noticed this rise. Lawmakers are trying to find common ground with the crypto enthusiasts. So, we see all of this moving in a certain direction. From the very start, in 2009, when this thing was released on the world, it's been a steady move forward for it. And I can't begin to tell you guys how much movement I've seen and what direction this is going, and it's not going to stop. It's not going to stop. I've seen too much movement in one direction, and that is this thing spreading like a cancer through the world. It's not going to stop. I remember back in 2013 just how hard it was to do anything with your Bitcoins. Anything at all. You couldn't buy anything with them. They were hard to buy. They were more or less just a novelty. Now, totally different scene. The growth has been absolutely phenomenal, and I don't see it stopping until it takes over the world. Thank you guys for listening to this report. Stay tuned, and we'll be back again with another report very soon. Thank you guys for listening, and we'll catch you guys again very soon. Bye-bye, guys.